Hey, welcome to episode 143 of the Titanforge podcast. This week, your panel includes World 9th Fated Sylvanas / US 7th Peyton TTB Tettles Tettleton.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. Glad I
Yes.
can make it.
We will be
What a
interviewing
celebrity,
him
what an
on this
honor.
prestigious accomplishment. I am, of course, Stratnos, joined by Trell, neither of us in the world top 10, so...
Okay, I was about to
Not
say
even
you were
close.
literally like, aren't you like world 12
World
or something?
11th, world 11th. It's been, for a while on Raider.io because everybody's killing Sylvanas so quick. We thought we were world 9th. We were on the moon. We were over the moon. We finally
Dude.
were in the top 10, but it was all taken away from us.
Okay, so just a hot tip for your stream and on Raider.io, and on WoW Pro, you need to put like world 11th Fated Sylvanas Windrunner.
Oh, don't worry. There's clickbait on the way. Yeah. But so this week we're going to talk about a little bit about the Fated raids, also a little bit about just Season 4 dungeons. Last week, of course, we had our big episode going through them all, talking about tips. There's actually been quite a few changes to how the dungeons have been even since then, though, and we've also, of course, learned a lot more, so I'm sure we will have some more episodes like that, some more educational ones like that in the future. We also have the Great Push coming up, which, Trell, you are competing in with a friend of the podcast / previous guest of the podcast, Corey Terrasant.
True. Yep.
Yeah.
Qualifiers are going on right now. We've been watching the leaderboards, and it's looking pretty spicy.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the team leaderboards. I don't know if they have all the teams. Okay, it looks like they do. Mostly, sometimes these don't update if people swap in characters or whatever. It's not fully one, but Donuts and DeBear.
Dude, that has to be
That's a
the greatest
great name.
Unbelievably
that.
good name. That's Donuts and Despair plus Dorky, famous bear tank. And actually, I think one other swap as well. Yeah, Timber, Spen.
Spin for smacked, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Spen, former Pop Tart Corn Dog Raider before he moved on to BDG. God, we miss him.
Wait, did he raid in?
Yeah, he was
Wait,
with us in Castle
So he was
Mastery,
in
I think.
Vision? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which of these teams are you, Trell?
We're Olge.
Olge.
Are we on there?
Hang on, scrolling
Well,
down. Okay, it's
We've
you probably
only played
just
an hour so far.
scrolling down.
Well, they only did one key.
Okay, yeah, then it's yeah.
We're probably not on there yet. But
And
we just
sometimes they
pushed
have
up
to be updated as well.
We just did workshop from 15 to 26 so far in like an hour and a half. That's it.
Okay, yeah. Workshop. Yeah, I see currently the 10th best workshop run, although a lot of these are different dorky runs. So you need to be, it's what, 6 teams from each region qualifying to the weekend. So
Yep.
top 6 is where you're going. Yeah, other names people might recognize. We've got Jack. Jack's team also doing this.
Ambition.
Yeah, props to them because they're the only ones streaming. I think we're going to stream after this, but we're glad that somebody is streaming finally.
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes sense to stream this, especially since the Chinese stream. Okay, first off, there is only one route, and there are maybe 2 or 3 routes in workshop. And
There's 2 different versions of it. Yeah.
You are not reinventing the wheel. In addition to that, the Chinese team, the Anuo,
Anwa's team, yeah.
it's Aster, but it's like Anuo, Annie, ZIBB, and then they have 2 new players. So Qingshen and Yulo are out, but it's effectively the Aster team. Since they've been streaming it, I feel like most other teams are kind of like, It's also workshop in Upper Karazhan, which, again, you're not reinventing the wheel with the route in that dungeon. The dungeon is so straightforward.
True.
Yeah, so we're seeing dungeons done in both keys, kind of capping out around that 28 to 30 level right now. But the way the qualifiers for this work is you just keep running them and get as high as you can. And it's basically like a mini Great Push, but, all the teams are in, and then we cut out to top 6 for the weekends. Now, that weekend will be in 10 days or something from the recording of this for the Americas one. So for that reason, assuming Trell does make it through to that cutoff, we will not be having a show next week, as that will be the day before the first day or something like that, Giga Focus practice time. But we'll return then the following week to do a post-mortem on how everything goes. We also do plan to have some coverage of the Chinese weekend as well. So stay tuned for more of our plans on that one. We'll try and get something, because that's the same time as the NA one, but we'll see if we can work something out, get some commentary over that.
How has Workshop and Upper Care been for you guys, Trell?
Those are probably our weakest dungeons, so we're really glad they're the time trial dungeons, because I think the best comp is probably Warlock Mage, and we don't really have a great setup to play Warlock and Mage at the same time. I mean, we could play both those specs, but not at the same time with our group. So I think everything else doesn't have to be that comp, and we're pretty happy about that. But those are probably like two of the harder dungeons too, just for execution wise. If you were to fail, you can easily fail an Upper Care run, and if you failed that during the Great Push 5-hour window, you lose like 30 minutes of your time, which is very big to lose.
Well, you can lose on any boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the meta is definitely interesting here. We have seen nerfs coming in this week to Warlock and Survival, to Destruction and Survival. Survival's taken a small hit to the Mad Bombardier damage bonus, although you're still proccing free wildfire bombs. And they've gotten large buffs to a lot of their single target. Some have argued to me that this is in fact a better spec after these changes for M+ than it was before this.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure that's the case, but I think it's definitely not a big nerf either way. I don't think it really changed the value of the spec too much, because single target went up. AoE went down a little bit, but not by too much.
I heard the numbers on this was like a 1% nerf.
Survival's definitely fine. They're like barely affected. The Destro nerfs are something, but I think it just brings them more down to earth with the rest of the good specs there, because Destro is still good for Fortified for sure. It's like Windwalker level good still.
Destro was just straight up nerfed. It didn't get any compensating buffs. It was nerfed on Rain of Fire and Immolation Aura damage. And you can see, let's see, of the top workshop runs, they're running Demo in there now, which is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Well, makes sense.
That's because it's tyrannical and it's almost all single target.
Corey, the highest ranked Destro, is still in there. And then over on Upper, we're seeing Demo and Destro actually out of Donuts and DeBear, which is pretty cool. They have Spen and Yips on that team, though, who both played a lot of Warlock.
This actually kind of makes sense. So, like, Demo is really good at, like, doing single-target boss damage. They can have, like, really big Tyrant ramps and stuff like that. But, like, Destro is good at, like, the... Okay, so the Bird Phase on Medivh and the Curator Orbs are something that, like, can cause problems, especially once you start pushing, I would say, higher than 26. Like, once you start getting up to like 28s and 29s, I was watching the Chinese team, they were having a lot of issues on Curator. Like, that boss is incredibly hard.
Curator's so hard. It's not even the intermissions, it's just surviving till the intermissions.
Yeah. Like, if the moment that you hit a third, like, if you ever have 3 sparks up at once, you almost immediately wipe. So there's definitely some give and take. You have to be able to kill those sparks off rapidly.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool meta to see developing here. We are seeing a little bit of diversity, but Rogue Mage is looking really good. To be fair, also these two dungeons are very single targety, and we are going to see.
Is that an enhancement shaman?
Yep, that is an enhancement shaman from Donuts and DeBear on their 18-3 chest.
They said they were just playing whatever to level the key.
Yeah, just for
maybe
funsies.
Something out for.
I expect we'll see stuff like Windwalker and other dungeons that aren't Upper and Shop as well. These two are the kind of single target specialist dungeons. These are like the demo dungeons, right?
Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't see Windwalker though in Upper so far, because Windwalker's really, really good on Curator. It has 2 minutes or 1 minute for every single burn, and it has really good 2-target cleave. So I'm actually shocked about that, because it's not a time key, it's a survival kind of key. Like if you make it past everything on 27 Upper Care, you probably have like 6 minutes left over, no matter what your damage was.
Can you swap to the China region and just to make sure that their Warlock is still playing Destro?
Let's investigate the dungeon leaderboards of the Chinese region. Destro, and over in Workshop, Destro, Demo, Destro. So ZyBB has switched to Demo for the highest Workshop runs, but other than that, the region still seems to be on Team Destro.
I heard that this region is really top heavy right now. I heard that there are like 2 incredibly good teams that are going to be absolute blasters, even on like a world contention level. And we know that Astra won the last TGP, so
yeah, I mean the Keystone level number here is competitive at the top with the other region. Yeah. All the regions are within a level of each other right now. And
how fast is that 29? Is that 40 seconds under?
This one is under by 3 minutes 40 seconds.
Oh, that's an upper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh shit.
And then the shop
they started upper.
is under by 40 seconds. Yeah.
These guys, they're
Okay.
cracked. They did 29s in both.
Yeah.
29
Wait.
upper is impressive.
Yeah, we have seen a 30 workshop out of Europe, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, now's group got a 30 workshop.
Yeah, but no 29 upper, but a
Okay.
30 workshop. So yeah,
Let's do a prediction. What's the highest upper we're gonna see?
in the proving grounds.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess 30.
Really.
Think 30 as well. Yeah, I mean, if China's
Only
already
'cause
got a
it's fortified.
29,
All right. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say 32.
how long is the proving grounds end in 3 days and 17 hours from now?
Chess, by the way, canceled, but I think that a 32 is doable.
Yeah.
That chess turns into
Yeah.
like a boss.
It is a long encounter on high fortified.
5.5 minutes or something.
The units start healing through almost all of your damage because they heal the entire fight even while you're attacking them. You can
What?
like barely whittle their health down. Yeah.
Oh God, that sounds horrific.
I think
It's
they
an
might
half
change
angle.
that. I think at this point in WoW's history, they might change that once they notice how bad it is in high keys. They wouldn't have done it in Legion, but they might do that now.
It's just too much healing right now. Is what I've noticed. It is even on like 26s and stuff. Like it is a substantial amount of healing that those pieces are doing. And then there's one hex on the board that, like, if a piece moves to it, it's just dead. Like okay, I had this thing when I was at upper care earlier today. It just moved that piece when it was at 20%. Moved the hex when it was at 20%. I was like, okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah. Does MS work against the healing? Like, can you Mortal Strike it and have it heal less?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not
That's
sure.
a good question.
Okay. Because I know this season there's been a lot of like MS effects already looking good against seasonal affix. So
Yeah, that's true. All the dreadlords and the mini boss.
yeah, and if you've got a hunter, they just gotta. I mean, they'll just have MS fed out probably for the whole thing. Ah. Okay, yeah. So that's a little preview of what's going on with TGP. We'll talk, I guess, more in our next episode, which again is in 2 weeks, not one, about what went down at the America and China weekends of that competition. Should be pretty cool. We're gonna instead, though, spend today's episode on faded raids and then the dungeons in more general. So let's start off by talking about those faded raids. And I guess first question is, how have you guys been feeling about the general difficulty of the faded raids on both heroic, mythic? I don't know if have either of you done LFR. I've done LFR. I did all 10 LFR Castle Nathria bosses, and I can say the difficulty there was it felt pretty good, felt pretty fair.
You were trying to get your Sir Bigglesworth mount?
You can't get that from LFR. I learned afterwards, so it was completely wasted time. Yeah, but I thought I was gonna. I was deceived by a misleading achievement that I'd read a month ago. So it was unfortunate.
God damn it. I have not done a single LFR, nor will I. I rated like half the bosses in Nathria and like half of them in Sanctum because I've been in practice. But they like the bosses that I did do felt fine. Some of them felt like you really needed to min-max the seasonal mechanic, the affixes with like Sludge Fist in particular. But most of them felt pretty straightforward if you've killed the boss before.
Yeah, the faded powers generally are just like a buff to you. There's a couple fights where it's like, oh, this is sort of annoying. Like Stone Legion Generals dispels soaks could be a pain.
Oh yeah.
We had issues on Sludge Fist, which apparently you didn't have issues on Sludge Fist, but we were kind of getting our ass kicked on that boss.
Yeah, so we Sludge Fist, we would just like grip the thing. We would either activate it and death grip it or life grip it and then activate it. Either of those we would just do every time to that. And we moved around some lust timings on a couple of encounters as well. Like Sludge Fist, we would lust as soon as we activated the first emitter, and that would carry through into the first pillar.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Sylvanas, we sent the second lust just like on the third platform with a 40 stack of the emitter buff and just nuked the boss there instead of the platform 4 lust.
I think that the general difficulty, at least for Mythic, for like our range of guilds, it kind of feels like first reclear level difficulty. Or one of like the really early reclears where it's like, okay, so sometimes you're gonna take like 5 to 10 pulls on a boss. Most of the early bosses felt relatively easy. At least even to like the puggable range is what I would say. Like for Nathria, you could probably pug the first 4 all the way through a Nervo pretty reasonably. For Sanctum, I think that you're gonna have some problems if you're trying to pug Ner'zhul, but I think that you could pug like maybe or probably 4 bosses in Sanctum as well, assuming that you're not trying to pug like Ner'zhul.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying like this week we're still what, like 290,
Yeah.
295 if for the Gearedist players. We'll be like 300, 304, right?
You're not 300 already?
I guess people will be 300. I guess people will be capping out around 300, 304 from weekly box, but this season legendaries are bringing our eye level down instead of up on average, which is weird. So
I know, it is super weird.
yeah. So I guess we're gonna get a little bit more powerful. We're gonna do a little bit more damage, but yeah, for pugability in general, I think I agree. Like the bosses feel more like the early ones definitely are a pretty cakewalk type stuff.
They're all dying at like 2:30. Like
Yeah,
they're dying before. The early bosses are dying before 3 minutes right now.
We're coming from the perspective of guilds that have like progged these bosses, right? And so like even if we've kind of forgotten some stuff, it's like everybody kind of knows like 90% of the muscle memory already. If you're trying to assemble a group that's not true for, I think you'd find them to be a lot more complicated, a lot more work going into it. But it's just like
yeah.
We've actually like we really do have muscle memory still for most of these things. Castle Nathri was the worst for it, but like Sanctum even we still remember pretty well. And when we get to Spulker next week, I'm sure that's going to be like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, I was surprised at some of our kills, how clean they were in Sanctum this week. Like we got to Soul Render and we just one shot at no deaths, no issues. All CCs were good, all timings were good. It was great. We almost one shot Painsmith too. It was really close, and then an emote exploded because we didn't see it spawn.
Oh no! Yes, Painsmith was our worst one. We one shot almost every other boss. We only wiped to Painsmith, Fate Scribe, and Sylve, and the others were just all down in one fall.
Our Fate Scribe was the one that was tough for us. Our Painsmith and our KT were both fine. Our Sylve was also, I feel like, pretty normal. Fate Scribe, it's difficult with people who haven't done it like in the guild before. I'm sure that you guys ran into this issue too, where it's like, even if you have like 5 to somewhere between like 5, 6, maybe even like 10 new people in your guild that didn't prog that boss with the guild, there may be like some minor variations of strategies for what you were doing with some fights. I think that was particularly more the case with Sire Denathrius and like CN just in general, where it's like, oh, we are doing a very different strategy from what my group did, or maybe even the people didn't prog it at all.
Sire in particular, like the first time you did it, you had we had all these spreadsheets of like who's going where, who's getting to how many stacks of Burden of Sin, who's cleaving on who, and then this time we just come through and we're like, all right, we are YOLOing this. You're gonna stand wherever you stand, and we'll adjust on future pulls based on where we wipe. We just bashed our head against it for a couple pulls until we'd move people into the right spots.
Where do you want me to stampeding roar? Wherever it feels right.
Yeah, just that was kind of our strat for most things. Like for Sylve, we did split up our bridges, and we had to adjust that like once, and figure out the Bloodlust once. But it was definitely a much more like organic thing, because there was no like pressure to prep, because nobody cared if we took twice as long as we could have to kill these bosses, because that's 2 hours instead of 1 hour, instead of 40 hours versus 20 hours of prog, which is very different experience. In terms of like the gear, have you guys been I will say I am unbelievably excited, because I know next week I will get a Mythic Fated Gavel of the First Arbiters, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop me. Like there's no matter what happens, that item will be in my hands next week, and that is so
Congrats.
Cool.
You'll now do DPS levels of single target as a tank player.
Yeah, it's gonna be some legendary behavior.
It is actually insane how much damage Bloody K can do with max level stuff this tier. It's insane.
Yeah.
As far as gearing goes, I think it's good that you can just pick 3 items that you want, not have to rely on a lucky drop, because it is rough only seeing those items every third week. I didn't get a single thing from the Sanctum bosses last night. I was hoping for Aegis, Defense Matrix Trinket, and the Vein Ripper, but not one of them dropped for anyone.
Yeah, I also noticed that Sanctum just has way better items than Castle Nathria, right? It's got like Vein Ripper, two good tank trinkets for Agi. It's got Old Warrior's Soul. Jaith is not that hot, but it's got good stat stick weapon. It's got like a Hungering Cold for
Edge of Night. It's also got
Edge of Night, Sylve
Bow.
bow upgrade.
Yeah, Weave of Warp Fates as well.
Orb of Torment.
Yeah, so and then Castellanatri just kind of sitting there with like, well, I've got 3 11s. There's kind of not really anything that
Yeah.
you like that like is anybody's first spend of their dinar from
Yeah,
Castellanatria. Yeah.
it's I've actually seen a little bit of criticism where it's like if you're not full clearing the raid, there can be problems, or if you're like not full clearing a mythic. So in addition to the like the quest that you have where it's like kill 30 bosses, if you're doing that from behind, it's going to be really difficult to catch up. But in addition to that, like the currency that you get just off of the looting the corpse of the boss, I've seen some complaints of like that's also hard to acquire if you're starting the patch a little bit later. So I've already seen a little bit of I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I'm also somebody who would not be affected by this kind of thing where it's like I'm trying to play catch up later on the patch or something like that with gearing and acquisition.
Yeah. I've noticed like because I'm kind of like I've been playing 2 different characters in Mythic Raid, so one of it like my DK now I'm at like 12 of the upgrade tokens. Like okay, I got to do eight mythic bosses on it next week to get my upgrade thing, and
How's that feeling?
yeah,
Are you like okay with that?
yeah. I mean, got to prioritize, right? If I wanted like if I was just playing one character, I'd get a lot. The thing that I do empathize with is like if you're like if you're benched on half the bosses or something like that, right? Like something like a Windwalker in a lot of guilds, that's kind of just you're just kind of naturally benched on a lot of boss
Don't
fights.
don't gesture towards my friend like that.
Yeah, or you
I'm only
know,
benched because I'm doing TGP.
if you're a healer as well in a lot of guilds, especially with the lower healing requirements this tier appears to have, like most bosses are 1 less healer than they were on Prog the first time. Um, yeah, it's obviously like you can do the heroic full clear still. You can get the heroic upgrades pretty quick. You can get your quest done, but the mythic upgrade things, yeah. I I've advocated for a system where you get a couple more of those from the first few mythic boss kills each week to kind of smooth that out a little bit better, but I think that would be better, but it's not a huge problem as it is right now, I don't think. Because you still get your upgrades in time, I think. Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. It's
Agreed.
it's just rough. Like if you're starting like an alt character that you're not going to be full clearing a raid on, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
but if you've got an alt character that you're not going to be full clearing the raid on, if you compare like how many items that you want that you can get this patch to like any other patch in WoW's history,
Okay.
it's like 20 times better. People like you if you want a full bis set of mythic raid items, I don't know, like that to me seems like the kind of thing. If you've got that as your shopping list, you're gonna have you're gonna want to kill every boss every week. I don't know.
Also, for the record, that's not exactly how I feel. I'm more in line
Yeah.
with it. It feels fine, but I'm also a person who's playing. I'm playing 2 characters, but I'm not playing it from behind. I'm not playing my second character from behind. I don't have expectations of it to like completely catch it up either.
I do think
I
that okay.
I was just gonna say that I do like the Valor is uncapped. A lot of my guildies are like 299, 300 already, just because of that. I'd probably be there normally, and I would like that, but I haven't been able to play very much.
Yeah, it's been interesting to have the esports this close to patch launch, right? Because usually it's like several months in or something, but this time
Yeah,
around they're
I've been
just
thinking about
blasting it out of the
that
gate.
too. I think that if this was any other season, if it was this soon in the season, it would be really bad because we would have to focus all on raid instead of the
Oh.
competition, Because I mean, there haven't been enough weeks yet. There's only been one Tyrannical week and one Fortified week before the first event even starts, and that means that the Fortified nerfs and the dungeons aren't even in. And in any other season, we would be like halfway through the Mythic Raid, if that.
I think I mean it is more of a for fun season. TGP, it's like I feel like it's been its own isolated thing, and you guys have been practicing on the tournament realm basically since the TR came up, so you guys would have a better feel for different affix combos. There have been other things in addition to that, like there's going to be some stuff where you like know the map. Oh wait, you don't even know the maps in advance for TGP. That's only MDI, huh? Well, you're at least you're gonna have some more understanding of the dungeons just based off of like things that you've done in practice. So.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
that's assuming you're not stuck in like raid prison or whatever, where you feel like you're obligated to raid permanently.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
point. And we're not in raid prison because it's a different kind of season. But one thing nice about how early it is in the season is I think on casting the event, you're going to see teams do lots of different stuff because we don't know exactly what is slightly better than the other option yet. And so you'll see lots of different polls, maybe some completely different strategies for bosses. It'll be interesting to watch.
I think you're gonna see different comps a lot of the time too. Like we're
That too,
we're already
yeah.
during Proving Grounds seeing different compositions, and they, I don't want to say they do very different things, but they do enough different to where it's like, oh, this is kind of cool to talk about. People aren't going to be playing. Okay, so basically last season it was only Destro Lark Surf Hunter, and then your third was, it should be a Windwalker Monk, although Rogue was like seen a little bit, but like both were mostly fine. Right now, it's kind of up in the air what's really the best.
Yeah, I like it being this early as well, but I do think it's like they can do it this time because there's not like an actual raid going on, right? And like that's there's no race to world first, there's none of that stuff. Although on the note of the race to world first, big congratulations to BDGG, world first fated Sire Denathrius Mythic, and Liquid, world first fated Sylvanas Windrunner Mythic.
Dude,
how can
it's
EU
great to
ever
see.
hope to compete with the American guilds? Impossible.
It's great. It's great to see BDGG come back from, getting second all those times and then getting a world first after all that work. That's awesome. And then Liquid bouncing back from world fifth to world first is also impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge stonks there. So big
They
moves.
actually got like world 18th in Castle Nathri, so I mean it's actually the highest jump from 18th to first that I've ever seen.
Crazy, yeah. Can't wait to see what happens in the Fated Sepulchre, the first run ones, Race to World First.
Yo, by the way, what was up with the bug on Nathri the first day? Where just half of the class's abilities weren't hitting mobs.
Yeah, so it was like every ability that calculated based off of damage dealt was showing up weird, but it was like all correct-ish server side or something, because so it was like Ignite looked like it was doing no damage, Brewmasters were gaining like no bonus health on their 4-piece, Atonement was doing like no healing, and so
Blade Flurry was
Blade Flurry
was hitting 0 targets.
Bone Dust
Basically was hitting
Brew.
0 targets.
Blade Flurry
Yeah.
was hitting for like exactly 9 damage every
And
hit
so-
or something.
And then they come in and they like the bosses show up as having like 15% more health, and they're like, no, we didn't change anything. Everyone's like, yeah, these are different health numbers, and they're like, okay, it's displaying differently, and the damage numbers are going to be different, but the kill time is going to be the same. We haven't changed their actual difficulty, and it's just it makes you question, like, is everything the game shows us? It could just all be wrong at any given time, because like that's apparently what was going on, right? There's just server side versus client side stuff was lying to us about the things.
That is
that's
still
interesting.
the craziest
Yeah.
like ordeal I've ever seen. It's just people like, wait, you buffed the raid? They're like, no, we did not buff the raid.
Yeah. So
I've had moments like that too, where I'm like, am I calculating this right? Like this tank is getting absolutely destroyed, whereas this other tank class is not. And that was actually true in season 1 of this expansion, where Vengeance had that
Vengeance
bug of
bug.
like
Yeah.
double magic DR against stuff. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't put a finger on it, and I'm sure that happens more than we realize.
Yeah, it's either way, it was fixed pretty quickly, and I had a lot of fun with the Vaders, and I definitely like. There's a lot of stuff this season that I'm, to some extent, I'm kind of willing to give them a pass for, right? Like that stuff, like not having season 4 in the dungeon journal, stuff like not updating the legendary eye levels to at least 311 or 315 or something like that, where it's like, to me, these things feel like they should do them, and like hopefully in future seasons, if they do stuff like this again, they will do those. But like, I get this one was kind of duct taped together and rushed out, or not rushed out, but like duct taped together and filling time, and like
I'm
it's kind of
kinda
just
willing to give them-
all upside.
I'm also kind of willing to give them a pass on like Grimrail Depot being a dungeon. That we
Oh
have
yeah,
to
I mean, of
play.
course, right? Like Grimrail Depot,
Well,
we voted for
It
that,
actually
right?
it got voted in. Still, okay. Anyway,
I think the thing we learned about that is that if you want community votes for like M plus dungeons, it's got to be different than just like an open call to the community to vote things. Like I think it could be all accounts that have done a Mythic Plus dungeon or something like that would get to do the vote. Any level, just any account that has done a Mythic Plus dungeon would maybe help.
Do you? That's
Even
not
that out
why
a
we
little
got. I
bit.
don't even think that's why we got Grimrail Depot. I
Maybe
think that
not.
People,
I think also maybe
it just was remembered fondly as an M0 dungeon, which is like, for the record, it is.
Yeah.
It was good.
It's a
as,
nifty
like,
dungeon.
A CM. Yeah, it was
Trains
good as
are cool.
a CM.
I actually like
good as-
Grimrail. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's a great dungeon.
I voted for
I just
Grimrail.
don't like it on Sanguine or Quaking or pretty much any affix that involves area denial.
This is a great point, and this is actually something I've been saying. I wonder if affixes need like a major rework with like their functionality, specifically the on death affixes, because they negatively impact dungeons so heavily now. Like,
Yeah.
Grimrail is seriously like unplayable on some specific affix sets, and it's okay. Grimrail, not my favorite dungeon. I will admit, it's there's not a lot of room for like creative freedom with pathing and stuff like that, so that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But
Right.
it is so negatively dragged down by affixes. If it's like a C tier dungeon normally, like on bad affix sets, it's just like Y zone in, literally Y zone in.
And there's 4, like Spiteful, Storming, Sanguine, Quaking. All 4 of those affixes kind of do that in that dungeon. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
It's just the affixes, honestly.
because I do think like having a season, if a season has some dungeons like Lower and Junkyard that are like wide open, huge amounts of choice, and some dungeons like Grimrail, Upper, and Workshop that are linear and offer a couple of small choices in terms of what to pull, but it's mostly like the binary question of, or the question of like, which pack do you skip in this dungeon, right? Rather than like whole non-linear decisions, and those instead just focus on having like interesting boss fights and stuff. And I think that could be a fine, like I kind of prefer that to the Shadowlands solution of having just like Shadowlands Season 1 of just like 8 dungeons where they're all kind of mostly linear but with a little bit of openness, and then they're kind of just all the same. I kind of prefer this season's texture of having some dungeons that are like boss rushes and some dungeons that are big open spaces.
Yeah, me too. I actually really like the dungeon pull this season. I'm really enjoying it.
I think the only drawback is, at least for me, the balance between the top and the bottom, with Junkyard being way too dank.
Yeah.
Listen, man, Junkyard's hard. You can only do it up to a 35 because that's the scroll limit on Tournament Realm.
I have a question. What are they gonna do about like? Are any of the dungeons like on the bottom end like that much worse, or is it just Junkyard is too high?
I think that the Karazhans are probably tuned a little bit too hard still after some changes, and I think Junkyard is too easy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like Junkyard is a huge outlier, and then among honestly, like I'm not even sure between Docks and Depot if either of them make the list, and maybe the Karazhans, but like you can see the Karazhan and Workshop are looking pretty equivalent on the Proving Grounds right now. To be fair, different affixes, but
I saw one Greg DDK timing a 27 Grimrail Depot with a considerable amount of time left yesterday.
Yeah, Grimrail has a lot of time on it.
Yeah, the nerf to the
surprising.
Lightning Breath as well is definitely like one of the good ones there.
Iron Docks actually has low time for the same timer for a dungeon related to Grimrail. There's a lot of trash you got to pull in there.
Yeah, so I think ideally it's just like they should buff Junkyard, but I don't know if they like from a conceptual level they should buff Junkyard. The question is like, would it be good to do that now that the cat is already out of the bag and it's already on the live servers? Like it would have been good to have done that 4 weeks ago, right before it went live. Would it be good to do it now? I'm not sure.
The problem is it's not even timer based. Like if it was just like, oh, we've given the players too much time. Okay, so if they're going to buff Upper Karazhan, what they're going to do is they would chop like 2 or 3 minutes off the timer, because the timer in Upper Kara is generally too free. Like you are afforded basically like a wipe 90% of the way into a boss, and then like you're still able to time that key. For Junkyard, if you don't 3-chest that dungeon even at like a 28, it is still like a 25. If you're not 3-chesting that dungeon, it may as well be a deplete.
In like we're talking like great push 311 geared
like, on live.
Okay.
I feel like you should be 3-chesting it. Like if you're able to do to get a 25 Junkyard, you should probably be able to 3-chest a 25 Junkyard.
Okay. I feel like
that's true. Actually, you can, if you have some experience in there, you can probably 3-chest it.
I have 2-chested a 22 with 15 deaths or something. So yeah, it's
You lost bots and had to run around a lot.
Oh yeah. To be fair, I didn't die, but my group died a lot. They were very mad at me for what I was pulling. I was having fun.
Did you pull the crawlers and the cats?
It was a Zulgamex plus a crawler.
I was holding W, man. I had a zap bot. I was doing a lot of damage. I was seeing red. My group was dying and stuff, but it couldn't hurt me. I was having a good time.
Sounds like a death knight.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the nerf to Junkyard or what the buff to Junkyard should be, and maybe a little bit of time off the timer. And I think it's just like lethality of the bosses should be upped as well, but I'm not sure how to do that. I'm not sure if that's the kind of change that's reasonable to make mid-season is the thing. Like maybe you just leave it at this point, and it's like it's kind of like a Ratchet, right? Where it's like you can't move it back in the other direction. I'm not sure it's good to like move dungeons in the making them harder direction.
I think they should just leave it, but like it's one of those things that's like it's very jarring.
If Junkyard comes back in a future season, they should definitely go through and because like they've done some subtle like Workshop, for instance, the short out damage feels like that's been nerfed by like 80% in Workshop from the robots. I don't know if you guys have.
It does seem nerfed a little.
The hammer got nerfed.
Yeah, and like so going through and making those kind of tweaks anytime that these dungeons are going to come back seems like a really good idea. And Junkyard I think needs like a lot of just more lethality on abilities.
If it was the other way around, I'd be more heavily advocate. Like if it was like a King's Rest Siege of Borealis, like my key is dead once I roll into this, I would be more inclined to be like, all right, something's got to change like now. Mm-hmm. But since it's in the other direction where it's like, oh, I one chested my 24 into a 25, and now I'm 3-chesting my 25 into a 28. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think what they should do is add time to the harder dungeons and then reduce some damage stuff does. And just call it good. Not make any dungeons harder. Just make a few easier down to the level of the average.
Yeah,
that would probably be the most happiness for the player base.
Yeah, I don't think they should really do anything to make Junkyard do more damage now that it's already live. But I do think they could take some time off the timer on it as well to just move it a little bit at the edges and reduce the amount of times that it's getting 3 and 2 chested as well, because the timer affects that as well.
Yeah,
true.
Oh my god, dude, the 3 chest timer is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But either way, like if they were to make no changes to Junkyard, I would be fine with that as well, and I definitely don't think they should make too much. How about the Dragonflight dungeon thing? We just saw actually a dungeon preview of all the Dragonflight dungeons, of the 8 Dragonflight dungeons coming up, but we don't know which 4 of those 8 will be in season 1. We know it'll be 4 of those plus Court of Stars, Temple of the Jade Serpent, a Mystery Legion dungeon, and a Mystery Wad dungeon. How are you both feeling about
Mystery Legion?
Yeah, Dragonflight Season 1 M+.
I hope it's Cathedral.
You like Cohen?
Yeah, I actually low-key hope that as well. I think Cohen got a bad rap because it was like introduced mid-expansion and like a little overtuned, and everybody got farmed by it for those reasons, but that was a cool dungeon.
My memory of Cathedral of Eternal Night is like you needed to do massive stealth skips because if holding W would put you at like 160% count.
Yeah,
so
but they fixed dungeons like that.
You did a humongous skip in the beginning due to it. Like I like.
Yeah.
You wanted to play a Resto Druid in that dungeon so they could prowl all the way up into the first boss. You would lob yourself off the ledge and they would mass res you into the first boss room, and then you were good on count.
Yeah, but they can fix that by just like nerfing count when they bring it back.
Yeah. I think I like Cohen. I think it's Cathedral of Eternal Night I'm a big fan of. I think EOA would be pretty cool. Those are like my two.
True.
Those are like my 2 favorites. I wouldn't be shocked if they picked Maw Souls because they seem like they're leaning towards shorter dungeons just in general.
I really like that, by the way. Shorter dungeons, super nice. You can have like 1 or 2 long dungeons, I think, but not like 5 or 6 like Shadowlands had.
What are the Legion landmines? It's like Vault of the Wardens and Seat, probably.
Archway,
I don't even know
Halls.
if Seat is necessarily that
Archway
bad.
was really long, 5 bosses.
Yeah, Halls and Archway I think need to both be avoided because of 45 minutes.
Halls also has 5 bosses.
Yeah.
5 boss dungeons, generally too long.
Of the Dragonflight dungeons, we now know the number of bosses in all the ones, even the ones we haven't tested yet, is 4, except, of course, Old Demand Legacy of Tyr is a 5. But the ones we haven't tested yet are 4s.
That one's shorter than the Legion 5s.
Yeah, Old Demand only has like two trash pools between bosses as well. And then there's, of course, the Ruby Life pools that is only a 3-boss dungeon. And there's not even trash between the 2nd and 3rd bosses. So that's going to be a Zoomer dungeon.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I like that one. Have they released any other dungeons since the 3 initial ones?
Yeah, there's 2 new ones that are on alpha this week that weren't last week. I don't remember which ones they are, though. I've been so busy, the race for World 11th was all consuming for me. So now I've got
Dude,
to take a couple days to recharge.
I've been doing so many keys. Like they didn't have any dungeons last week, and then like this week I just haven't done any alpha keys. So I don't or alpha dungeons. So I don't really know what those dungeons look like yet.
Yeah, we'll take a look at those again more in the future. Maybe we'll do some kind of cool. I don't know. I'm sure in a couple months, once we're feeling content droughted with season 4, we can start doing like alpha dungeon focused
Dude, I'm ready for alpha.
things. Yeah.
For me, it's like M+. Once M+ was released on alpha, that's the point where I'm seriously putting a lot more content time into it. Like I really do like the alpha stuff, and the stuff that I've done on alpha has been a ton of fun. But the season 4 stuff is actually, I really like season 4 stuff too.
Yeah,
same.
I love season 4. I like that they are taking forward rotating dungeons in M+ into Dragonflight. I will say, I am even more of the belief that Dragonflight Season 1 M+ should just be the 8 new Dragonflight dungeons, and it should not include rotating back in old ones than I was before. I'm still obviously, like, I'm happy with... I'm still going to be happy and have fun either way, and I'm willing to give it a shot, but the way that Season 4 has been received has made me think that more rather than less, because I think that everything new at the start of the expansion would be good. But then now I'm thinking like, oh, Season 2 of Dragonflight, with the system as announced right now, the other 4 Dragonflight dungeons and 4 different rotating dungeons, right, means 8 new dungeons at the start of Season 2. And one thing I've learned about the Season 4 rotation is the fact that 75% of our dungeon pool changed is actually like a lot of relearning and a lot of change. So I'm kind of the opinion that like maybe 50% should carry over from season to season, and the other 50% could rotate. But like when like there's so much mental upkeep to having
it's just jarring.
And like do it. So if we're doing that every 4 to 6 months or whatever, I think that's going to be a lot. If it is like an 100% reset, I think that's fine on expansion start. I think that's one of the joys of expansion start. So that's why I think they should just do the Dragonflight ones there, and that'll of course all be new, and then then do the first rotation in season 2. But I think they're pretty committed to doing it this way, and I'm fine with it. And I still think this would be better than BFA and Shadowlands, no rotation at all.
Trell?
I have the actual opposite opinion. I'm glad they're doing this, because I think that having 8 untested or low tested Mythic Plus dungeons is hard to just send into the player base. Like I'm pretty PTSD'd from the first season of this expansion, where the dungeons just were not ready to be put out onto the player base at launch. Like there were so many things they had to nerf several times. I think 4 dungeons will be easier for them to take care of that problem early. And then there's 4 being brought in that have already gone through all those tuning passes, hopefully, and are already good dungeons,
Yeah.
But maybe that's just my personal opinion. I also feel
respect the opinion. Yeah.
I also feel super overwhelmed at the beginning of an expansion, because you got to learn every single dungeon and the new raid at the same time. And I think a lot of players probably identify with that. So maybe this will help for that problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, assuming the content pacing is better, like I'm a pretty big fan, because like what this definitely does is it allows Blizzard to be able to get us more content on patch cycles. That's not like they're giving us borrowed power, because like that's what they did in the past, where they would just give us borrowed power on like 0.1 patches or whatever, 0.2 patches, and that was supposed to satiate us. Where I feel like now it's like, even though they're like old dungeons, you're completely learning them in a new environment, and like you have to apply the seasonal affix to them. Oh, how is this going to work out with this? There's so much new tech in like the Grimrail and the Iron Docks dungeons, where you're just like, oh my gosh, this does this. You can stand here and avoid the lightning on the last boss of Grimrail. It's like there's so much like weird stuff like that. It feels nice to go through that learning experience again.
Yeah.
I do worry about for like new players though, how it's going to be. If you're doing like 2 keys a week, is it going to be too much? Like is that really going to be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely optimistic, and I think that either way, like it's going to be better than the Shadowlands season 1 through 3 and BFA season 1 through 4 plan of just 8 dungeons, and then okay, here's a new mega dungeon or whatever. So yeah, should be pretty sweet regardless. Hopefully the dungeons turn out well. I do think that one thing season 4 has taught us is like, if they bring back old dungeons, it's actually quite a lot of work for them to do. I think maybe not nowhere near as much as making a new dungeon, I assume, but like most bosses behave differently in meaningful ways than when they were done the first time, even from expansions as recent as Legion, right? Like even the like the way Curator Sparks function is they went in and like redesigned that. Medivh seen rebalanced the way it works. Mana Devourer was bugged when it first came out and had to be like redone to have like an energy bar instead of a mana bar and stuff. So like I think there is like an amount of upkeep that is going to need to be done on these new dungeons as they come in, and even still they have this thing where it's like it's a different texture of dungeons where like single target damage versus AoE damage has a different value, and and like survivability against one shots versus survivability against rot damage versus like healer throughput. All of these variables have been kind of more fixed at an expansion level before, and now we're kind of seeing them within the same M plus season here in season 4, right? It's like, oh, in different dungeons you need vastly different amounts of these different resources. I think that's cool, but it is something that like they need to be aware of and make sure that it's at least staying within a band that they feel like is reasonable variance for that.
The Legion keys just having 15 deaths baked into them is so funny. Like you actually just have multiple wipes baked into the Legion keys. Just because that's how they were designed then too.
Yeah.
And you were expected to run it down like in those keys and still time it. I don't know.
The meta for Upper Kara was Lust first pull the dungeon or Lust Curator, get to Medivh, wipe without Lust, re-pull Medivh with Lust, kill it, go to Mana Worm, pull it without Lust, wipe, re-pull it with Lust, and then complete the key on time still.
Has Lower Kara been similar to what we see on live, where teams are timing that key like 18 deaths and they're like, that was a good run, I'm in? Is that what your experience is like in there too, or is it a little bit more clean cut that because you're practicing it a lot?
I mean, we haven't really like done runs back to back, mostly just testing stuff, so I don't know. But
okay.
I imagine it's still like that on live keys.
All right. Let's I guess that's probably good for discussion on this. Any further last topics on season 4, Dragonflight season 1, M+?
I think overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think like it ended up surprising me with how fun it's been. I will say I think that this is I would chalk this up as a success for Blizzard. I think that a lot of people were skeptical. I think that this has been a lot of fun.
I think one thing that's been so huge for this is their willingness to come in and like there's been a lot of good changes in the past week already that's like, hey, this item sucks, we're buffing it by 500% the effect on it from one of these dungeons, right? I think they should do that much more liberally with like any trinket that's got a 0% play rate out of these dungeons should just be buffed until that's no longer true.
True.
And
I like that.
I think also like just going back and not just like doing numbers changes, but they've gone back and done some really good swirly adding for bosses, like for the fire arrows on the first boss of Docks, that kind of stuff.
That was a good change.
Those kind of changes are, I think, really appreciated and I think important if they are trying to bring old dungeons into modern, scaling M+ level where you can't just have that. You can't have avoidable damage numbers on unavoidable damage effects. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. I think it's been going really well though. Really happy with how season 4 is going so far. Let's do our tip of the week here. My tip of the week is, I guess I already alluded to on the intro, is the Chaotic Essence Fated Raid power. You can life grip this before it is activated, or death grip it after it's activated. This is really good on Sludge Fist, but it's also good on all the other fights for this. Even on Sylvanas, if it's like 5 or 10 yards away from Sylvanas, you activate it, you death grip it under Sylvanas, and the motes will then start spawning from there instead. You will get yourself more stacks of this power that way, so a good thing to do. You can make a macro to do it if you want, or you can just target it and do it, whatever works for you, but huge benefit against that power. Trell,
I do like the motes, and gripping them is nice. My tip of the week is for Iron Docks, and oh man, I'm so glad we have new content. I have so many tips of the week now. But
this is so toxic, by the way, what you've written.
Yeah.
So Iron Stars have a target cap, but they have 3 times the target cap of Outlaw Rogue, so they're actually tuned to be 3 times as powerful as Outlaw. But they are capped at 15, so if you fire one starter and there's 16 mobs in its path, one of those mobs will live.
But they also won't kill the infiltrators.
True, infiltrators cannot be killed by them. That's true.
I also think you can pull stuff from like the maze area back and have the Iron Stars hit them as well, can't you?
Yeah, so what you should do is fire 2 stars, clear out most of the area, save the 3rd star, and go pull the pack that's like off to the right in the next area. That includes the giant that turns into the infiltrator. Pull that back, kill it with the star, and then chain both infiltrators into like a pull that's even farther than that.
You mean to tell me you don't freeze it insta once the infiltrators get there?
No, don't keep
Trees.
them still. One
What,
mob pulls are banned.
What class casts trees? I haven't seen that in ages.
It's okay. They're not that bad.
All right, Tuttles, what is your tip of the week?
Okay. So normally I do clips. However, there's, again, similar to Trell, there's a lot of tech for a lot of these dungeons. So I feel like a tip of the week was a bit warranted here. There is a Atumen. I was going to call it Huntsman. There's an Atumen lower Kara Dispel Weak Aura that auto searches for invisible an invisible debuff on your player, kind of similar to how the Lords of Dread.
Yeah, I thought they
Weak Aura
fixed
work.
this being possible for weak auras to look at.
You know, I don't care or question it really, but this Weak Aura here, it.
Oh, you know
will-
what? We looked at the code for this week aura, and it has to do with being in a vehicle.
Really?
It's really interesting.
Amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, so it just like puts in say chat like dispel, or puts in party chat like dispel me auto or whatever, and then
Yeah.
like
If you're the
it'll
healer
also-
and somebody else has this, it will glow their frame to dispel
Yeah.
them. So, you need everybody in the group to have it for the glow on frame to be consistent. But even if you're just the only person in your group and you're pugging, you'll at least do the say thing, which is better than nothing. And yeah, we'll have the link for that in the description below. Or if anybody's listening, it's wago.io/capital F, capital Z, another capital Z, and then 60, and then lowercase s, uppercase O, lowercase o, and a 3. So that's the URL for that, and that's HTTPS.
You're so helpful.
Of course, you need some slashes in there too. So good luck with that one, or you can click the link in the description and stuff.
if Dratnus was like born 30 years ago, he'd be a middle school librarian.
God, I'd love doing that. All
Teach
right,
kids about the Dewey Decimal System and the early days of the internet.
dude, Dewey
Hey
Decimal
kids,
System.
it's time for the tip of the week. Did you know that when you turn in your library book, if you're facing a certain direction,
Dude.
Dude, do you know they told us that like .coms were less reliable than .govs, sure, but like .orgs, which is just completely made up. .org and .com are, there's no difference in reliability between those, but we got a whole thing about the hierarchy of what websites were reliable based on their suffix. I don't know. Big elementary school. They're trying to
Big elementary
that's true.
school.
yeah.
It's not the same thing, but that's true. It's no
Big
different, really.
California.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. I can't believe I was indoctrinated to think that. Also, I was told Wikipedia was not reliable too. It was a
I also
crazy
got
time.
told. Okay, anybody who's ever said that Wikipedia is not reliable, please get a grip.
All right, let's move on. We got a couple Q&A questions to get to, but first we'll do some Patreon thankings. Our lovely patrons include Paul. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Who's ready to spell reflect the big slimes in Gunker area and get wrecked by some weeks
That's a
because the
big
hard
reflect.
mode bot is in the wrong spot? It is a big reflect. Definitely do not go to anywhere where that thing is flying overhead. Very bad. Never Nude, Ja, Dratnus' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy, Grimrail Depot. How about you Grimrail D's pose? ZivXX, Salty Senny, Necros, Sinmora, Tagdill, Nevo, Fredceratops, Eevee Survival Main, No Trick, I Forgot I Was Sub Tier, Dymat, Lufer, Rework Mistweaver. Bad news from the Datamine spells on that one. Looks like not too much new stuff, at least Datamine so far. We'll have to see when the actual tree comes out. The morale will continue until
Where's
the
the monk
beatings
tree?
improve. It's going to be the last one, for sure, 100%. And the Demon Hunter one. The Monk and Demon Hunter ones have got to be the last ones. The Demon Hunter one is like... I imagine that there's somebody who's sweating trying to create talents for Demon Hunter right now.
The so the person who's the person who did the Rogue one, like they're in the like they did the Rogue one. They're also doing the Demon Hunter one, and they've been in class discords a lot, like kind of
Okay.
workshopping and fielding ideas and stuff like that with both of those classes.
Okay, I was just going for the obvious meme that like Demon Hunter has 2 buttons and they need to make
But, I mean,
40 talents. Yeah.
I am seriously worried about that class's talents. I don't know. man.
I'm actually among the most like I think it's going to be sweet because they will be forced to do some new stuff for it because there's not enough old stuff to fill a tree. So
Yeah,
could be cool. Nyx, Fated Raid's actually enjoyable. Gallic, Brusif, Dratnos Shards Abyss. Hell is not Grimrail Depot. Hell is other people in Grimrail Depot, Monk ass. Msanity, Xena. Rogue is now good enough for Prague, still bad enough to be sat for SLG. Bless up, that's not relevant again, but it will be in 2 weeks. Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer. Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming. #1 Simski for Trellski. It's not Lurka's fault. Milk, Sife, Pone. Windwalker Monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. Due to Sims with 4-piece, Skelly will be going back to Elemental from Enhance. And they did in fact have more of them talent trees. All right, let's do Q&A. First one comes from Ven Bombadil in Twitch chat, who says, why all the other seasons shouldn't be pure fun? Just decouple fun from competition. Only Drive should be fun. Only Drive should be fun. Okay. Yeah, I think that my take on it, like people say like, oh, fun season or like for fun. And it's not like the goal is not to make a fun game the whole way through. It's just like it's for fun versus there being like a serious competitive element to things. The serious competitive element is fun as well, but it's like the word fun has like 2 different meanings that people are using, and it's not like because like for me, doing progression rating is fun, and this season doesn't have that, and like that. But that's the best part of it. That's one of the best parts about World of Warcraft for me. But like, so when we say it's a for fun season, it's like a less serious, right? But yeah, I don't think they should do that every season. I think progression rating is sweet, and there's a lot of stuff they can do differently this season because progression rating's not there, and we shorthand that as for fun. But
yeah,
that's not what that doesn't mean. It's more fun.
I don't think that like the M plus or the PvP, they're not necessarily for fun seasons, right? Like they are seasons that. The raid in particular is the for fun part, so people take the PvE players take the season as a whole less seriously due to the fact that
there's just nothing completely new. That's why.
In addition to that, like, is there a rank 1 M plus title this season? Like, is
I think there's gonna be. I'm not sure. I assumed there was gonna be. Yeah, Shrouded Hero. I guess they haven't confirmed. Yeah, but I had assumed that there just would be every season from now on. Yeah.
I do think that this season it's a lot more laid back. I don't think it's like I don't think for fun is fair because it's like every season's goal is to be fun, but I think it's more laid back because like Drano said, the competitive element is just
because it's not actually new content. Yeah, it's like slapping a new coat of paint on some old content, and I do think that's something that they can work into future stuff, but it would be like alongside new content, and that would keep the kind of usual feel more. Although I think doing a season like this at the end of every expansion would be a cool thing to do as well.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not burnt out enough yet, but I like it. And I think that, like I said earlier, the season 1 of next expansion having a mix of new and old will be really good for a lot of people too.
All right, next question comes from Parse Rogue, who says, can someone tell Dratnos to blur his camera to match the rest? I don't know if I can. Hang on. Let me try.
For the record, the issue with the blur is due to Discord, not due to
it's whichever of us is doing the actual like Discord stream. Like I've got my camera direct and I've got their Discord feeds.
Yeah.
Okay, I found a filter to sharpen my camera. That's not what we want. Okay, that's not
blurring it.
How do I blur it?
Can you add a Gaussian blur to that thing?
Get like an 8-pixel filter.
Image mask / blend. Wait, that's probably not it. Audio video filters. Okay. Gain. Wait, no, that's audio. All right. Well, I'll keep looking for this while we do the next question, which comes from Taboo34, who says, "How do you feel about Farm? Do you enjoy Farm? Feels like if you don't, then this season is not it." Yeah, I mean,
I hate Farm. I'm a prolific Farm hater. anytime I can get out of doing farm, I will. I don't know. I think that this season has been a lot more enjoyable because not having to do Sepulcher for the 12th time in a row just breaks up the monotony. Ultimately, I don't really care about farm. I only really care about prog rating. I only do farm because I know it's good for camaraderie inside the guild and stuff like that.
Good practice, yeah.
Good practice too, yeah. But I think that for me, like, just going back and seeing the new dungeons again, or like, I say the new dungeons, the old dungeons again, is nice.
Yeah, I do not like farm generally compared to progression. Like, progression is why I play World of Warcraft, or why I raid in World of Warcraft, at least. And farm is kind of like the, you're like hanging out with your friends or whatever, your raid, and that's cool and all, but wouldn't really do it if it wasn't because there was prog every, twice a year. That being said, this has felt maybe like 30% of a prog experience, maybe a little bit more than that even, which is better than, we get in the usual year-long end of expansion patch, so.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. There's just a little bit of prog sprinkled in the farm.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And
it's got the whole thing of like, oh, there's a couple weeks where everybody's logged in and everybody's doing keys as well and stuff outside of raid, which is also sweet.
Yeah, I always like the first like 3 weeks when I could just put a message in my guild chat and I instantly have a group of 5. It's great.
All right, next question on Twitter from Prepley. What are some of the worst boss/faded affix combos you can think of from Sanctum and Sepulcher? So I guess we've already done Sanctum, so we already know the ones that are there. But when we get to Sepulcher, what kind of stuff is going to happen? What would be the worst thing they could do to us?
Oh, God. Something on Jailer, about the soak on Jailer.
Halandras dispels could be annoying during the intermissions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What could be annoying on Anduin? Maybe AoE on Anduin at the same time as the...
Dude, people have had so
Souls?
much performance issues with the motes.
Oh, yeah.
Just how many targets, like 40 targets, being summoned on a fight is unsurprisingly bad for raid performance sometimes.
Yeah. I will say that's probably my favorite one. Is actually, it's just, the Dispels is the only one that I kind of like don't like. I don't know. Yeah, those all seem pretty fun.
You don't... You like the shield one?
Yeah, shield one's fine. Shield one is like just a non-affix, right?
Yeah, sure. The dispel like soak circle thing on Jailer would be so cringe, by the way.
Yeah, if you got that while you were like Azerite soaking in P2, that would be a tremendous pain.
It would also be really tough on Ragolon. Like I could see it being really hard on Ragolon for some specific moments.
Yeah,
because like you're not really in control of your movement all the time on Ragolon. Like either
Lords of Dread as well. You got to dispel while you're like ranged with a green circle or something like that.
Why is it always the dispel one?
That.
Yeah,
why is it always the dispel?
That's the only hard one, honestly. Everything else you can kind of move to the location you want it to be in, right?
Yeah. All right, so yeah, I looked more into this camera blur thing. I would need to like download something, restart OBS, so I'm not sure I can do it for this one, but I'll try and blur my camera for next time. Oh yeah,
just put your hand in front. Yeah. Did you see it? Did you see that chat?
Yeah, hang on.
He blurred it for a sec. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Camera's too good. It adjusts too quickly. Yeah.
Mine's not adjusting.
Oh, look! Dude, look how much detail you can see on my hand there. Oh my god.
Why do you have all those lines in your hands?
Do you want to see look how much hair I have on the back of my hand?
Have you ever heard of this thing called moisturizer? It makes you not have crusty hands.
You describe my hand as crusty? What do you mean?
Yeah, crusty. Trell, back me up.
Dude, hands have lines.
His hand
on
looks
them.
great. No judging.
Thank you, Trell.
He's just going all natural, man. No chemicals on his hands.
Yeah. That's so true. Good enough for the
cavemen,
cavemen, good enough for me, as I always say. Anyways, we've reached the end of valuable things to discuss about 2 minutes ago, so that means it is going to be the end of our podcast for the week. We'll be back in 2 weeks after the Great Push, America's edition, to talk about that. But we thank those of you who chose to stick with us, and also apologize very sincerely for the last couple minutes too. Bye, everybody. Oh, let's wave close to the cameras for one more.
High five.
Wave one more time close to the cameras. Yeah. Bye.